Everyone has a story to tell. Welcome to DingoTalk, where we explore the experiences that make us who we are. Here's your host, Carlo Guadagnino.
What's going on, Chuckleheads? I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is DingoTalk. My guest this week is the head football coach and kilt-wearing coach, Jason Couch. Coach Couch is going to tell us his story about how he made his way back to Alma. But before we get his story, let's talk about where Alma is. Alma is located in Alma, Michigan. They have 1,250 students. They have a 65% acceptance rate and a 71% graduation rate. It's about $61,000 before aid, about $22,000 after aid. Their top three majors are psychology, kinesiology and exercise science, registered nurse and nursing. And the registered nurse and nursing and the business major were kind of this, they had the same percentage points. So we're going to throw that in there. There's actually four. If you want more information about Alma, talk to your coach, talk to your guidance counselor, talk to your parents, talk to the admissions counselors, and check out their website at www.alma.edu. Again, that's www.alma.edu. Without further ado, this is Coach Couch.
What's going on, Chuckleheads? I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is Dingo Talk. My guest this week is the head football coach at Alma College, Coach Jason Couch. Jason, Coach, thank you for joining us.
Hey, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Coach, we do this the same way every week. We throw you in a little bit of a time machine. We take you back to your playing days, and we work our way to today. So my first question, 1993, how do you find yourself in Alma?
Obviously went to a lot of different schools. Mom and I traveled around like high school kids are doing right now, right? They're busy visiting schools and things like that. And I came to Alma and walked to campus, and it was, beautiful, and people were nice. Clinched it for me was sitting down with Coach Cole, my head coach, and he was the head coach here for 20 years. Love the man. Just spent 4th of July with him up at his house in Northern Michigan. And, so it's obvious he's still a mentor and, a great impact in my life. So that's what he brought me to Alma. And then very quickly, the more time you spend at a place, but I've, fell in love with the college and the other people and professors that even still I keep in contact with some of them. So it's fantastic.
Now, Coach, after your time at Alma as a player, when did you realize that the coaching bug, that's what you wanted to do with your profession?
I think, from very early on, I knew that even in high school. I think Coach Dennis Zaboza, my high school coach, again, a person that I still contact. I, text or talk to him on Father's Day. Like, my dad's a great impact in my life, but I've had several men and they've been coaches. And so reach out to him and we chat, knowing, the relationship I had built with him, that seemed like the path I wanted to do, and then continue to explore it while I was here at Alma. And Coach Cole, real quick after graduation, had me working camps. And I love it. Right. I mean, coaching football is so much fun. And so, teaching aspect. Yep. That's, good too. But it's the easiest avenue, right? To be able to coach is also to, it works well with your schedule. And, I did enjoy teaching. I really did. And, but it allowed that avenue to coach as well.
And you kind of go from high school to high school, and then you settle what looks like at Romeo High School is kind of the long-term one. So why was that the fit?
That's hometown. So that's where I went to school. So the other spots were wonderful places. But my heart is back in Romeo, and every step. So my first stop at Merrill Small School near Alma, student teaching, and they offered me a job before I was even done student teaching. And so I stayed there for 2 years. And then Troy High School, opposite end of a spectrum, 2,000 more students, but it was closer to Romeo. And taught and coached there for 2 years, and then an opening in Romeo, and I jumped at it, and then was an assistant for 2 years, and the head coach then retired, and that's when we had a co-coaching head coaching gig going on at Romeo, and place that close, near and dear to my heart. But
now with the co-head coach, and I see you were the offensive coordinator, I'm guessing you just dealt with the offense, the other co-head coach just dealt with the defense, and then you guys were kind of mixed in with the special teams.
Yep, absolutely. We were one of the first to do the co-head coaching. It was very unique. I wish I saved the emails and things that we got, like, this won't work. And it would be nice to show them later, and especially maybe after the state championship that we won together, like, yeah, it can.
Sure.
You have to be on the same. You have to have. You can't be selfish, and you have to have the same vision. And man, you have to communicate a lot. Kurt Reines and I, who were co-coaches together, we talked all the time. We had to be on the same page. And you know what? Really, in general, that's every coach, right? My coaches and I here, I would say, are on the same page, and we do talk a lot. Lack of communication adds to problems, and so I want to make sure that we don't have any of that anywhere I'm at. So it worked out very well. Honestly, with young families, we thought, oh, it'll be great. You can do this, community service thing. I'll do this one, and so forth. We did them both, all of them together. So it worked out very well for us.
Well, and then after, you take 16 seasons that you got to be back home, and then it was time to go back home again, just up to the next level. Why in 2018 was it time to return to Alma?
Well, I was offered the job. Right. I mean, so I remember the date, January 5th, a couple of reasons. It's my wife and youngest son's birthday. So that date sticks in my head, but I was offered the job that day. We sat down as a family. My boys at the time were 14, 13, and 11. And that's a tough one, right? I mean, to pack up and move the only place they've ever known. But they're like, all right, Dad, let's do it. And we live 3 blocks from campus right now. And I mean, players come over for dinner, and my boys were able to jump on a bike and ride up the campus and come to practice, in those early years. Now, shoot, I got two of my boys are on the team, and I see them more than I ever have, which is great. And then my youngest is going to be a senior, so we'll see where next year takes him.
Coach, that's an interesting spot that I want to ask you about. What's it like coaching your sons? Because there's got to be a difference, right? You're not dad on the field. You're coach.
And I'll tell you what. I'm glad you asked that. I was worried about it. I heard some horror stories about high school coaches coaching their kids. I had a coach one time that was also a parent in high school. And I remember asking him, I'm like, hey, what coverage were they in? What'd the, safety do on that last play? And he's like, I don't know. I was watching my son. And that has stuck with me. Like, that can't happen.
Right.
Like, he just can't do it. And so my oldest son's freshman year, he wasn't a starter, but he did play some. And this is so after the first game that, he and I were together, and I went to the offensive line coach and I said, this is going to sound like a dad, and I'm sorry because I'm mixing dad and head coach. I said, I thought JB was going to a little bit. And he's like, He did. He played in 4 series. And I was like, "Oh." Because I coach running backs. I'm watching running backs
Right.
and, coaching them up. And so don't tell him that, and hopefully he doesn't watch this one. But I had no idea he was in that game, right? And so, um, I went back, right, watched film, and then watched it as a dad,
Mhm.
and that was fun. But the next week, he comes over the headset and he's like, "Hey, I'm putting JB in." And I said, "Don't you ever tell me again." Right. And uh, I I have my duties and my job as the
Right.
head coach and as running back coach. And he's a starter. He started last year. Um, so it might sound like a bad dad, but I don't watch him in the game. I will certainly, bring the film up, grade out my running backs, and then I'll watch, yep, how did he do? And um, but it I for me anyways, it's been much easier than what I worried it would be,
But I think
right?
a lot of coaches, when you run into the, as you were saying, the horror stories you hear of, head coach or position coach has son on the team, and there's preferential treatment, or you're watching this and not, or the story that you told, they had no idea what coverage they were in because they were watching their kid. Um, so that's interesting. Now I do have to ask you about. So as I was reading and doing research for the interview, you have a very interesting game day attire.
Hey, heck
So
yeah,
let's
baby.
talk about the game day attire.
Yeah. I wear a kilt.
Right.
I do it only on home games. I'm not afraid to do it away games. I never have. I'll be honest with you. There's a lot more to just a kilt than what people look at. Oh, it's just kilt. I mean, I've got the vest and the tie, and you've got, they call it the hose, and then I mean, there's so much to it. I'm like, man, I don't want to pack all that, right? Or feel like Beyonce having to change the wardrobe change, before games and stuff. So it's just easier home games. I do it at home. Um, if guys on the team ever came to me and said, "I want you to wear it in an away game," all right, I will. I don't. Yeah, it's not like I'm proud of it.
Right.
And so 2018, first year, get the job, January, February, I'm talking with my wife. I said, I think I should wear a kilt for the game. She's like, absolutely, you got to do it. I'm like, all right. So I get the Alma tartan kilt and all that stuff. And now it's getting close. Now it's like game week, home game week.
And none
And
of the players, none of your coaches knew this was a plan. This was all just
couple or all the coaches did.
okay.
But it's funny. I still remember calling in one of my leaders and players, Steve Soa, in. I'm like, "Hey, Steve, this is like day or two before the first game." I'm like, so I'm sure you guys caught wind, like, right? Everybody knows I'm thinking about wearing a kilt, and his eyes get big. He's like, "No, we have no idea." And I'm like, "Oh man," I go, "You think I should tell the team? Because I don't want it to be a distraction."
Right.
Right? And he's like, "No. Walk into the locker room before the game with the kilt on." And I'm like, "Oh man. All right." And I'm more nervous about that than the game. I'll be honest with you. I was like, man, I don't know. Right. This could go great.
Yeah.
It could be like, what is, and then some people I think even thought, oh, is this gimmicky? No, it's not gimmicky. I'm proud to be a Scot. I'm proud to be back here as the coach. I love wearing it, man.
Right.
And so I walked into the locker room, and there was like that of music. Everybody was silent for about 5 seconds. I looked around and then they went nuts. I didn't need to give a pregame speech much. I think I still did, but um, you know,
They were ready.
we, yeah, they were ready. And so yeah, went out there and now it's just what I do.
And I like that it's a home game thing. Like, I mean, I understand your Beyonce reference and not wanting to have to change wardrobes, but I like that it's specific to home games. So, let's talk a little bit about the 2023 season. So
Yeah.
6-0 in the conference, 12-1 overall, losing to inevitable champion Cortland. But the week before that, you guys went up to Alliance, Ohio, and kind of shook the D3 world for a little. So for that week leading up to the Cortland game. So my question for you is, now that the dust is settled and we're pretty much rolling into 2024, what's the takeaway from the 2023 season?
The 23 season, after the 22, we, undefeated regular, we went 11-1, and I think some people thought that's fluke year, maybe.
Okay.
The 23 season, we talked about it a lot, about the target on our back now. Like, there's no longer anybody's taking us lightly, which was a great challenge to our players, right? Step up, and you got to work harder because now teams are gunning for you. I think same thing this year. Like, this is team 131, so 131st team, right? This team is different than team 130, different than team 129. Who are we? We haven't earned anything yet, and there's a lot of conversation with that. When I think respect means an awful lot, within people, within a program. And this team has to gain that respect, because it can't be just off of reputational last, because guys have left, new guys are coming in. This is a different team. And so, right. Who are we? We address it. We talk a lot about it. We do a ton of things during, August camp that to help create that identity.
Mm-hmm. Now, for you guys, the 2024 season already started a little earlier than most. You guys took a trip to East Kilbride, Scotland, where I'm guessing the kilt's got to be a very popular thing in there as well.
I was the only coach in a kilt the first half. Yeah, it's more of a formal attire over there now.
Okay.
And don't get me wrong, you see it a lot more than here in the U.S. certainly, right? And there's kilt shops all over the place, and yeah, it's cool as heck. But yeah, nobody over there is coaching in a kilt that I saw. So, and I did. I packed it up. I took it over there. I wanted to coach in Scotland in a kilt the first half. Second half, I had a little different attire on. We'll get to that, I'm guessing. But I played in the game, so I suited up second half. So
let's talk about the second half. What was it like putting the pads back on?
I'm 49 years old. I'm overweight. I should not have been putting on the pads, let me tell you. But I got a chance to suit up with my boys and with the team. I don't want to, they had a blast seeing me do it, right? I mean, I've skipped leg days for 27 years, so disproportionate a little bit, and they laugh at me, but that's fun. We're having fun together. My warm up was like literally putting on the pads, and I'm like, yeah, I'm sweating. This is good. I'm ready to go.
I'm good to go.
They're like, you're gonna pull every muscle. I'm like, there aren't that many left. So let's just get out there and have some fun. So we did.
And more on the 2024 season. So I looked at the schedule. I see UW River Falls, Denison, and then Northern Michigan. Now, before we get into that, I want to ask you, because I've talked to a couple coaches with the 3 non-conference games. Do you struggle finding opponents as you're, I know there's a travel rule. You don't want to put anybody on a plane or a bus to go 20 hours away to play a football game. What is the struggle for you with 3 non-conference games? And that Northern Michigan game is a very interesting one.
Very. It's it's getting a little tougher. I don't like, I like to be prepared well in advance, right? So our schedule is already booked through 2027. And so some of our schedule was even booked before the 2022 year. So
Okay.
I think what you're getting at is with recent success, some schools are probably going, why do we want to play you? We'll go play somebody else. Um, Probably, and if you would have asked me in 2018, hey, you ready to book Mount Union in a non-conference or North Central, or I'd be like, no, not, we're not. But that's the goal, right? Is to get to that level and that standard. So I'm not. I have thrown out to some coaches any interest in the 20 28, 29, and I think most of them are like, are you serious? Like, that's a
It's a
long
ways
time
out.
from now. And I just, it's something for me to work on. Like, yeah, people around here laugh at me like, you're really thinking about that for 5 years from now? I'm like, yeah, because I don't want, hey, next year we have an opening and we're sweating it. So
Yeah. Uh, so, Coach, tell us a little bit more about Alma. Um, for those that are listening or watching that aren't familiar with Alma
mhm.
College, just give us a little. What is Alma about?
So we are dead middle in the middle of Michigan. Our Michiganders, right? We get to do this, so we are right in the middle. What's nice is, I mean, we have a few guys from out of state, but we are geographically right. The state of Michigan, essentially 2 hours or 2.5 from almost the whole lower mitten, right? And so it's nice from a geographic standpoint. And we're going to win. We're going to develop with Michigan players, high
Yeah.
school players. And from a college standpoint, I'm biased because I went here and I sat in the classrooms, and it's challenging. It's going to prepare you for that next step. For me, it was education. Our pre-med program's phenomenal. I mean, we have a cadaver lab, which grosses me out, right? But
Yes.
yeah, not my thing.
Mm-mm.
But our students are holding the scalpel in an undergrad class, like taking those hands-on experiences and then applying them when they go to med school. And yep, I've done this. What an advantage is that,
Wow.
And so it's an excellent academic institution, and we have, just a long history. I mentioned Team 131, a long history of traditions within the football program that we're proud of.
And then, what are you guys? Obviously, guy got to be able to play football because you wouldn't be recruiting him if he can't play ball. But what else are you looking for when you're bringing somebody to Alma?
Yeah. So number one is going to be film. I mean, that's the easiest, right? I mean,
Mhm.
up pops huddle. I'm watching their film. Yep, this kid can play. Next question is going to be, what's his grades? Because why would I chat and recruit anybody and waste their time, my time, if they can't get in here or be
Right.
successful here? But what trumps everything, and I mean everything. I don't care if somehow a 5-star decided, I want to go to Alma, and was a 4 point. If they're a jerk, right? If they're a culture killer, they're not worth it.
Right.
And so we have done that. We have. Um, I use this story because it's true. I drove a little over 2 hours to a high school to meet with a recruit. I
Mhm.
went into um, the main office, told the secretary there, I'm here to see so and so, and she went, really? And it like red flagged to me. I said, why are you surprised? And she said, he's down here a lot and not to talk to college coaches, if you know what I mean. I I left.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I I'm like, why do I need that headache? Why do I, And so I texted the young man and said, I appreciate your interest in Alma College, but I don't feel like it's going to be the right fit, and move on. And, yeah, so I those three things: you got to be able to play, you got to take care of business in the classroom, and then be a good person.
And then the other side, not just for Alma, but what is the significance in your eyes as a former Division III athlete, now Division III coach? What's the significance of Division III and Division III football?
I love Division III. I think Division III football or sports, it's the purest, and I hope it stays the purest of especially college athletics. Why do you play? And I know there's some criticisms of D3. Why do they play? They don't make money or anything, because they love the game.
Right.
Why do you love playing a sport? There's no financial incentive, right? You come and be a student here at Alma, you're going to pay the same amount whether you're playing football or you're not, right? In your given situation. And so yeah, why? Because you love it. And that love and passion, I love yeah.
Well, and I've talked to other coaches, obviously, throughout this journey down the Division III coaches head coaching tree, and a lot of them say, when football ends in the 4 years after your time's done, or if a global pandemic happens and you get a couple extra years thrown on there of eligibility, but when football ends, football ends. Now, not all of us get to go to Scotland and throw the pads on for a second half, but for the most part, like you said, it's the love of the game, getting 4 more or 5 more years, and then that's it. Football becomes a completely different animal at that point, because you're either going to coach, or you may not. You might just go off into your own realm.
Yep.
So, Coach, there's a couple big things coming down the pipeline here in 2024. There's 2 of them specifically I want to talk to you about. One, playoff expansion. Obviously, we went from 32 to 40. And my question that I've been asking this season is, was it time for the expansion? I know that automatic qualifiers, we were getting real close to that 32 number that we already had that were going into the tournament. So does this make sense to you? Was it the right time? And are you excited that there's going to be 40 now, as opposed to waiting a year or 2?
I am. I think there are some things I don't agree with. One in particular is the 58-man roster for the playoffs. I would like to see it a little bit higher. I understand from financial reasons why there is a cap on it, but at least now it's 58 times 8 more schools. Right. You get that many more college student athletes, college football players are going to get the opportunity to experience college playoffs. And what a great thing. That's something they're telling grandkids, right?
Yeah.
That they played in a playoff game. And I think, to compare it to other sports, it's catching up to what the other sports have been doing, right?
Right.
So I think it's fantastic that it's been expanded. There's going to be some significant financial obligations from teams. You think about, you win a couple games in the playoffs, especially this year with the first week being fewer number of teams and so forth. You're now on campus. Classes have ended, which means cafeteria closes.
Right.
You're still practicing. You need to feed your team. And there's going to be some significant financial obligations for those teams that continue to advance, especially those Final 4 and then the Final 2 that will go about 2 weeks before the national championship game. But man, I hope I'm dealing with that. I think I'd have a few pretty excited alums that'll help out with that.
I would say so. And it's interesting. You talk about the financial burden that the playoffs kind of have now, adding the extra weeks. There's another financial burden that got dropped on the same day that they announced the expansion of the playoffs, and that's the ability to have up to 18 iPads on the sidelines. I believe it's Game Strat, not Huddle. You're not going to be able to watch film from other things. You're just going to be in game. How do you guys feel? Are you guys planning on using it? And how do you work around that? That you got to put a couple iPads on the sideline.
Yeah, we won't have
cost
18. We won't have 18. We don't have 18 people to watch them. I mean,
I was gonna say,
but you're looking at 8. I mean, that's significant, right?
Yeah.
Probably 3 for us. I think our thoughts are we'll do 3 on O on the sideline, 3 on D, 2 up in the box, 1 for each side. You know, we thought, well, we could share them. Yeah, but literally a play caller could potentially see the last play within seconds. So now, you got to have enough for both sides. Just got to do it. I mean, again, if I need to, you maybe make a couple phone calls, and we've been very fortunate here that the alumni support is extremely generous. So
now,
go ahead. No, we're still doing some research on what system we're going to use, but.
And my question, my follow-up to that is, does that mean that as a D3 fan, and for the D3 fans out there, we should be expecting that instant replay is going to trickle down to Division III? Because now you're going to have the iPads on the sidelines.
I've heard of coaches that have said, a 5 and a 5-5 year, or one more win may have kept somebody's job, and that one win, maybe a call did play a major role. Yeah, you would hope that, and officials are humans, and no coach makes the right call every single time, so they're not going. I mean,
right.
You got to understand that. So I don't know if we're going to get to that point where it's going to it should be somewhat of a neutral video. I can't, and nor should I, nor can I now run over with an iPad and say, hey, look, right? But if the system comes down to where, whether it's a sports information director is prepared and ready for each school, and the official calls, I want to review this, and maybe it's certain situations, the final 2 minutes, whatever it is. I mean, they do have it, and I think it's starting in the semifinal games where they do reviews, but resources, right? That's tough for every school to have that.
Right. So you're not expecting to have a red flag in your pocket anytime soon.
It would be in my sport, and that's what's called in the kilt, right? Yeah, no, I don't think I'm going to have one anytime soon.
All right, Coach. So the last part of the show we do, they're 5 random questions. They're all for you. All the questions have been for you, so I should probably figure out a better way to say that. But they're 5 random questions. They're not really about football. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be and why?
I'm pretty happy right here, but I assume you want me to come up with something else.
No,
I don't know.
No, we've had coaches say right where I'm at is where I'm at.
Yeah, be where your feet are, man. I mean, life's good.
What's the most important lesson that you've learned over your career?
Relationships are the most important. X's and O's are great, but if you build relationships between coaches and coaches, coaches and players, players and players, then those X's and O's get even better.
Right. If you weren't coaching, what would you be doing?
I mean, the easy answer is teaching. The one thing, I had a professor that I had been interested. Like, it was that what if not teaching, being a DEA officer when I was younger really interested me. And, he and I talked at length about, well, go teach and coach for a few years. And if it doesn't work, then explore that DEA thing, and never looked back on teaching and coaching. So
didn't have to look back.
Nope.
Coach, this is a two-parter. Best compliment you've ever gotten?
You have great kneecaps. With the kilt, man, it works.
That is good with a kilt, because if the kneecaps weren't looking good, there might be some people making fun of your knees. That's
caught you off guard on that one, huh?
On that one, yeah, you did. I'm interested for the next part of this question. What's the best insult you've ever gotten?
Well, somebody calls it a skirt, right? I mean, Scott says you're supposed to punch them right in the nose if they call it a skirt, but I don't do that. It's a kilt.
And then, Coach, the last question I've asked everybody that we've had on the show: was there a specific question that you were expecting or anticipating? And if so, how would you have answered it?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That is a really tough one. Because I think you nailed them. I mean, obviously we talked about the past, we've talked about the future and expectations and goals. So man, nothing comes to the top of my head. I'm sorry, man, I'm failing there. Dang.
No, that's good. That's good on my part, because that means
it is good on your part.
When the editor looks back at this, she once again has to go, well, I guess they didn't have anything for you to, they didn't expect anything out of you. So, well, Coach, I want to say thank you very much for taking the time on this Thursday to sit down with us. Good luck this season. For those of you sticking around, we have a little bit more coming for you here right after this segment. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. But this has been Coach Jason Couch, the head football coach of Alma College, and we'll be right back, Chuckleheads.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Dingo Talk. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. For more info and to contact the show, you can find us on Twitter @DingoTalk.